First things first, let me go ahead and give y'all a quick history lesson on the Quim forums, how long they've been around, and some information on the Final Fantasy VII modding community. So Quim forums, according to Internet Archive, has been around since 2002. Now this is when they've generally done their snapshot. They usually get the snapshots using something like, I'm guessing, wget or curl, but that may or may not be it. But that's what I guess. So every once in a while they have their spiders go out and they do a capture of the site. So as you can see, they've been around since around 2002. Now, Quimforms has been, I'd say, the lead development in the Final Fantasy VII modding community. Uh, Back then, modding used to be a big pain in the ass because different developers would make different models and sound add-ons and effects, and they'd be scattered throughout the place, and you have to use tools to assemble and reassemble the files and insert the mods you wanted. Now things have gotten a lot easier. So the Seventh Heaven mod manager has been around for around 5 years. I've been going to the Quim forums for around, I'm guessing, 15. I do a quick playthrough on Final Fantasy VII every few years. So they made the modding a lot easier now. It's pretty much just a 2 and 3 step install process. It's okay. So what we're gonna go ahead and do here now is navigate over to the Seventh Heaven Mod Manager GitHub page. So it'll be Seventh Heaven Git. Go ahead and click the first link that says Timecodes, Seventh Heaven, Final Fantasy VII Mod Git, and this will be the page you're brought to. Now, the mod manager is currently being developed by Tsuna Mods. Um, there, there used to be a different set of developers working on it. I don't know if they got too busy with their personal lives, but Tsuna Mods is now doing it, and they are balls to the wall on it right now. As you can see, they updated 2 days ago, and if you look at the record date here, this has just recently been updated. So you're going to want to go ahead and scroll down to the latest Canary release. Now, I'd usually recommend stable, but I've been playing with a lot of the different versions, and this current Canary release version seems to be really stable. So go down here, click the latest Canary release. Then you're going to want to go ahead and download version 2.3.1.78. Just download the zip file here. Now keep in mind when you're doing this, you're going to want to make sure that you've already have Final Fantasy VII installed. I'd recommend the Steam version. That's what I've been using. So you're going to want to go ahead and extract it and open up the folder and just run the executable as administrator. Now, if you already have the Steam version installed of Final Fantasy VII, these directories here should be auto-filled already. They've tried to make this as user-friendly as possible. So, I've been using this thing for probably around 5 years, and if you want to have a really nice modded setup like I do, I'd recommend you enable all the mods I enable and all the styles that I enable as well. Pretty much what I was going for is just the latest to get the best looking version of the old game with a nice soundtrack that's modernized, but keep the original sound effects. So if you want to do that, just follow exactly what I do. Now, when you're in this window right here, where it says activate newly installed mods automatically, I'd recommend turning this off. Uh, just for the reason is if you're playing around testing new versions, whenever you open this up again, and you'll see it's going to do it for me, it's going to scan all the mods in the Final Fantasy VII folder. Now, when you install the mods, they actually go to the game folder, so you can, if you have any problems, you can always delete Seventh Heaven Mod Manager and re-extract it and start over again. And when you do that, it's going to scan all the mods that are currently in the Final Fantasy VII folder. So I'd recommend turning this off. Activate newly installed mods automatically. Well, you don't want 100,000 mods start activating right when you load the program, just for stability reasons. So I'd turn that off. Import mods from library automatically. Yeah. When a new mod contains warn when a mod contains code. That's talking about malicious code right here. Well, it's giving you a warning because not that it's actually malicious, but because there has to be another executable file run, like for the like for example for the user interface, you have to run another executable to apply that mod to the user interface. Now, I've been using this for a while. I haven't had any problems with virus detection and viruses, and I'm very tech savvy, as you can see, so I don't think there's much of a problem, but it's going to warn you, and that's up to you if you want to do it or not. Now, right here, you have an auto update mods by default. That's up to y'all. I want to turn that on or off, whatever y'all want to do. Right here where it says channel management, it's gonna, now if you have one of the canary releases, it's gonna bother you with downgrading, so I'd recommend turning this to canary right here. And then you're just gonna want to go ahead and hit save. Now, as you can see with mine, it's gonna scan my mod directory, so it's gonna take a little bit for all the mods to show up. Now, okay, so it looks like it imported all my mods. Now I'm gonna want to go ahead and go over to settings, game driver. Now I like to run everything maxed down graphics. I have a 1080, so obviously I can max this game out with no issues. So where it says graphics API, you can choose the renderer here. You also see that there was a controller mod that allowed you to use the Xbox control. You don't even gotta worry about that anymore because if you're using the DirectX 12 graphic engine for rendering, it's already gonna have the controller set in there. So right when you plug in the controller when you're in the game, it's going to auto route those key mappings to Final Fantasy VII. So default, at least as today's date, it comes with DirectX 11. I like to use 12. I bumped the resolution up. Now you're not going to get all the new graphical features of DirectX 12, but it is going to render it in DirectX 12. So I like to bump up my resolution. I like it to go to full screen automatically, and I like to stretch the aspect ratio. I don't mind if the aspect ratio looks a little stretched or the image looks a little stretched on playing. I like it to fill the whole screen. I got my 16x MSAA on, anisotropic filtering, and vertical sync. And now let's go over here to advanced. This is important. If you're going to be using any of the music options, you're going to want to make sure VGM stream is selected and not the original MIDI. Otherwise, the mod won't be applied. And now it says the same thing for this audio.dat file, but keep in mind this is a newer feature of this version. I would use the original audio.dat. You're still going to get some of the sound effects applied from the newer mods, but what I've noticed is if you switch this to the VGM stream, a lot of the user interface sounds go away. So I keep this on the original audio.dat. Movie option, if you're using any of the upscaled FMVs, you're going to want to make sure this is FFmpeg. Animated textures, show driver version, FPS, I mean that's up to y'all, whatever y'all want to do. So let's go ahead and save that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and activate the mods I activate. I like to use the new UI theme, so I apply this. It's going to give you a warning, just going to hit yes, and I don't want to be bothered for this anymore, so. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and search models. Now, there is a few different model files, and some of them conflict, so I'm going to show you the ones I select. So, right here, where I'm going to want the world models, and it's going to say it has to change a setting because of an incompatibility issue. And then I'm going to double click on world models. Now this lets you actually configure the mod. Now there's not much, it just been a lot of models made over the years. So you can go in here and you can choose your models. So I like to use the Nino style graphics field models for the battle and the field, just because to me they look great. They go great with the older game. At first I didn't like them because I never really tried them and they look too cartoony for me, but in game they look absolutely awesome. So I go over here, Nino style. Nino, there's no previews for that in here. So uh, Grimmy, I like this one the best. Okay, Nino. Okay, save. So we're done with configuring the world models. Now the field models. The world models are the models that you're seeing when you're on the world map, going to different towns. The field models are the models when you're walking around, not on the world map, but you're not in battle either. So you're going to want to turn that on, and then you're going to configure this. Now this is pretty important what I'm about to say here. So the resize project, I turned this on. I think it looks better when it with that stretched aspect ratio. Now it might not work with all the mods you have considered. If it causes instability, I'd recommend turning this off. Dynamic weapons. So whenever you're walking around in the field, this is the model it's going to use. Now when you use the dynamic weapons models, it's going to override your main character field model, which is fine. So if you want the Nino style model to show with the sword on his back, you choose this one here. And then you choose what sword and stuff. I just like to leave it original, so Nino style right here. And then main characters, and then I like to change all this to Nino, Nino, Nino. And it's just saying right here it can't change it because you're already using the dynamic weapons mod, so you're gonna be already seeing his updated field model with the sword on his back, so you don't even need to worry about that. Nino. And then supported characters. Keep that one default. Okay, good to me. Okay, so we did the field models and we did the world models. They also have a battle models one here, but you're not gonna have to worry about that. I don't worry about that one personally. I like to use the battle models, the Quim specific models. So we have lost a lot of. Um, well, I wouldn't say a lot. I know of two personally that we lost. Somebody imported some summons mods, and it's pretty much impossible to find on the internet now. But you can find the YouTube video where somebody redid all the summon models. There's a summons mod on the internet where somebody actually imported summons models and did some work of their own. The problem is they've had a copyright infringement pull request on it, so it's pretty much vanished off the internet since then. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. If somebody can find it, I'd like to keep it for personal use. So if you can find it and just, maybe message me in the comments below or get a hold of me somehow, that would be great. I'd really appreciate it because I used to have that before, but when I wiped out one of my old servers before, I lost all that. Okay, stop. Yeah, already on the right one. Team Avalanche for that one. It would be, like I said, it would be nice. Well, it would be nice if they actually finished doing all the models across the game in Nino style. That would be incredible. Okay, so we configured the field, the world, and the battle models. So we pretty much got all the upgrade models. Now we're going to look for the textures. So field textures. Okay, now this one was released really recently. I think it was back in like 2020, and then they did an upgrade in 2021. So I'd use this one. These are the new AI upscaled textures, and they totally make the game look like a generation. Okay, so you're gonna want to go ahead and go right here to the V5 field textures. Make sure this is on. Enable animated fields. Now there's certain things that are animated now in the fields. You can go ahead and enable that too. Now this might cause some instability issues with some of the earlier releases of the mod manager. Okay, now let's just do a quick rundown. Let's check world one more here. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to make sure we have the world textures enabled. I personally like the ones from the Quim developers, so I go right here. Now we're going to want to make sure we have the world textures configured. I'll show you my favorite one right here. So I like this one right here. I think it adds more of a detailed style to the grasses and everything. So let's go ahead and save that. Now we need the battle textures. So I think the Avalanche Arisen battle textures are the best looking. So I'm going to go ahead and check that one. And they have the mini games textures. I'm going to go ahead and enable that one. And the spell textures. Okay. Now the ones I'm choosing are the ones I've always chosen for pretty much a year since I've been playing the game, besides some of the newer release ones. Now we're going to want to go ahead and make sure we have the newer FMVs applied. So I like to use the 30 FPS FMVs, which are right here. So let's turn that on. Now what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to go ahead and go down and look through all the mods just to make sure I got everything I wanted. And now for the sound. So I personally think the very best, whenever you go to this media one, this is a few gigabytes to download as well, so it's going to take a while when y'all download it. When you go to this one, you're going to want, since we already applied that 30 FPS rescaled movie mod, we're going to want to make sure this is turned off right here, because we already got that one, so we don't need to apply it again. Now for the soundtrack, I think the most modern and badass sounding soundtrack would be the Anxious Heart Professional. So I'm going to choose this one. For sound, I like just keep the stock sounds. I've had some issue when I've been messing with sound effects, so we're just going to stop sound effects. Okay, and now that I've gotten all the mods that I wanted, I'm going to go over here and click sort. So that's going to sort the mods in accordance to the way they load before you actually have to manually sort them in the order that they were loaded to prevent any crashes. Now, this isn't perfect. There's still a little bit of bugs, but it's, like I said, the installation is way easier compared to before. So we're going to go ahead and hit play. Now, sometimes when you click play, when those field models are applied, it causes a large delay in the initial game load times. I'm not sure why, and from what I've seen, it's only done it with that one mod. Unfortunately, that's like the one I always use. It's like one of the main mods I want on. So whenever you click play, if you get a waiting or not responding, just click wait and don't let it exit out. So just wait patiently here for a second. And once you're in game, it's great. I mean, I've been playing, this for years. Haven't really seen any. I might have had like one or two crashes, but it's like really stable, surprisingly. So what it's doing now is it's injecting the game, it's mounting the disk. Okay, and we're started. Now, whenever you wipe out that mod manager folder, you don't have to worry about it wiping out your saved games or anything. So let's go ahead and start a new game here. So as you can see, it's showing that it's being rendered in DirectX 12 at 30 frames a second. The FMV is a lot smoother than it originally was. And here we go. See, I mean, look at that. Doesn't that model look like a lot better than I think it would according to the image preview? For the longest time, I never used the Nino style models. Now I use them. I was like, holy crap, look at this. So another thing I like to do is I like to go over here and go to config, and when I start the game, and I turn the battle speed and the battle messages and the field messages to the field fastest possible. Go. That way, you can go through the game a lot quicker. And then I like to turn the ATB to active. So this way you're playing the original Final Fantasy VII all the way through. If you look closely too, and if you look at Cloud, you can see he has a breathing animation now too, which is really cool. Alright guys, so